Thanks for joining us. This report explains rate-regulated accounting, both in general and how it has been applied at BC Hydro. It's important for the people of British Columbia and members of the Legislative Assembly to better understand rate-regulated accounting in order to appreciate the impact it has on the bottom line for BC Hydro, government as a whole, taxpayers, and ratepayers. Rate-regulated accounting is a widely used accounting practice at utility companies throughout North America. Past government direction has resulted in BC Hydro not using rate-regulated accounting correctly, and it hasn't charged customers enough to cover its operating costs each year. Ratepayers owe $5.5 billion to BC Hydro. Government says it's making changes that affect BC Hydro and the British Columbia Utilities Commission, or BCUC as it is commonly referred to. BCUC is the independent regulator in BC. We recommend that BC Hydro prepare its financial statements in accordance with Canadian Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, without modification. Rate regulation is the practice of controlling or regulating the price or rate the company charges its customers. And rate-regulated accounting shows the effect on a company's financial statements. Rate-regulated accounting is widely accepted and common practice throughout North America. But in order to use it, there are certain accounting standards that must be followed. While rate-regulated accounting is common in some sectors and industries, including utilities like BC Hydro, the large amounts in Hydro's regulatory account balances is not. It's also important to note the critical role in rate regulation that the regulator holds. Over the last several years, government has taken over much of BCUC's role to regulate BC Hydro's rates, costs, and use of regulatory accounts, limiting the authority of the Commission. As of March 31st, 2018, BC Hydro had 29 regulatory accounts with an accumulated net regulatory asset balance of approximately $5.5 billion. In other words, BC Hydro hasn't charged customers enough to cover its operating costs each year, and ratepayers owe $5.5 billion to BC Hydro. Here's an example of why BC Hydro might defer costs. Say, for instance, a storm destroys the power grid, and the repairs result in higher costs than expected. A regulator may allow a utility to smooth out the recovery of those costs from customers over future years, rather than increasing customer rates dramatically in one year to cover the repair costs, and then lowering rates in future years, or potentially incurring a financial statement loss. Exhibit 4 from our report shows how BC Hydro's use of regulatory accounts has increased significantly since the early 2000s. As a result of how BC Hydro has applied rate-regulated accounting, both BC Hydro and government appear to be in better financial shape than they are. Looking ahead, government has said it's making changes that affect BC Hydro and BCUC. In November 2018, government removed the regulation that prevented BC Hydro from implementing appropriate accounting standards. It has also said that it is removing some of the directions to BCUC and that more changes are on the way. Next year, we will become BC Hydro's financial statement auditor. We will continue to work with government and BC Hydro staff to assess the impact of rate regulation on both BC Hydro and government's bottom line. Finally, we recommend that BC Hydro prepare its financial statements in accordance with Canadian Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, without modification. That's our report summary for today. Thank you for joining us. We'd like to encourage you to read the full report. It and our other reports are available on our website at www.bcauditor.com.